So hello everybody, Shlomo here, and today I have a special guest helping me reviewing another business listing. And this is James Camp from Nano Flips. Amazing newsletter. Go check it out. I love reading his stuff. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Shlomo. I'm excited. This is, it's rare that you find someone who likes to geek out on this stuff in the way that we do. So
let's geek out. Let's geek out.
So let's geek out. Let's have some fun.
I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go to a listing on Flippa on something that we found before, which is called cruisemaven.com. And we're going to guide you through finding what are the good things and bad things in that listing, and maybe you'll go and buy it. Let's check it out. Share screen here. Okay, that's Cruise Maven, and we have an award-winning travel blog with a focus on cruising, cruise trips, and advice, destination guides, and breaking cruise news. Do you want to go with the first thing that you see when you're looking at the listing? Interesting stuff?
Yeah, I think, well, first off, as of the past 24 hours, it's under offer, which I do find interesting, and which obviously many offers do not go through, clearly, right? But it is interesting to see now someone's made an offer on it. For me, when I look at listings, it sounds so stupid if you have been sort of in this space for a while, but often people will ask me like, what should I look out for? What's the first due diligence thing I do is like, does this pass the complete like sniff test, right? Like, does this look like fraud? Does it look stupid? Not there's a ton of fraud rampant in the way that it used to be on some of these marketplaces. They used to be just horrific sites, but like,
Flip are better, not perfect, but better than we used to be.
Not perfect, but better. Exactly. We can't hope for perfect yet, but definitely better.
Actually, there's no one is perfect, I think.
Is that like, I think from looking at the listing, is this seller verified? Is everything sort of there? Does everything sort of line up?
Where you see the seller under here.
Yeah, if you scroll down, see verification complete. Like very low level of like.
No reviews. So some of them have reviews. We need to say that, and then
I do prefer a review. Confidence. Often the reviews come from brokers, though, right? Like that have a lot of listings or flippers. But Sherry Kennedy, the seller. Actually, if we go to Cruise Maven, who's writing Cruise Maven? Is her name Sherry Kennedy? Because
yes, you see that on the about page. Let's find that.
There you go then. That lowest level, that is the first thing that is a good sign to me, is that the person who's selling it is the blogger who's selling it, right? And that's verified. That sounds so silly. There you go.
Yes, there you go. But we need to also say that with AI today, you can basically do anything you want. So also take this with a grain of salt of saying this. It can be Sherry, and both of them do not exist.
Of course.
Still, it's something.
But I thought that was you have to, like, I think for me, due diligence is like a series of check marks, and you're never going to get every single check mark checked, but we basically hope that we get enough check marks checked, enough straws on the camel's back, that eventually the camel's back breaks in a positive way, in a way that feels like, okay, this is something I want to buy, right? So my gut check is that right off the bat, the seller is the actual author, and that seems like a good win to me.
It looked like the same person here and here. Yeah. Okay, let's go through the listing. So here. So we have cruisemaven.com, 17-year-old website. That's a dinosaur in internet life. That's great. So they have a lot of Google stuff going on, probably almost at $9,500 a month in profit. That's good. The asking price, this is a classified. So Flippa has classified and bidding listings. This one is classified. It might have been a bidding one and they couldn't sell it, so they moved to this one. Let's look at quickly at the multiplier to see if that goes with the market price, if that makes sense. So if we're doing 4,200, and let's just this divided by 9,500, we get a 44.7 of a multiplier. Now, at the moment where we are recording this video, the market multipliers are around 30, so 25 to 35 roughly. That's down from when it was 35 to 45. So this is definitely an expensive listing. They really want to sell it because it's a sponsored one and it's an expensive one, so they still can spend the money to sponsor it. But I would do some negotiation here.
I think if it's under offer, to go with that. So I think what we've seen is multiples come down in the past year or so, and that's just the macro environment. I think that there are, rates have been up, economy slowed down in some regards, right? So it ends up being in a risk-off environment. There's less buying. With that said, everything in this world is negotiable, right? I generally, and there's a lot of interesting ways to close valuation gaps. And so I think that although, albeit this is a bit high for today, I don't think 2 years ago this would have been high. I think this would have been very fairly priced, considering what the market was paying for it. But there's, A, there's probably some negotiation, and B, maybe it leaves a little opportunity for someone who's a buyer to look at like seller financing part of it, or leaving some of the owner with a tiny piece of equity, to be able to keep their name on it for some of it. And that sort of is how you sort of crunch some of that valuation gap. I think it probably goes for more than a 25 or 30x, just because it's been around for 17 years. It's making pretty good money, but I don't imagine this selling for, like you said, I think you did the math as 44x monthly. I don't think they're going to get that for it.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the finances and red flags that you see right away in these kind of listings. So definitely you see it's a downtrend here. Now many websites were hit with the last Google updates. So that's something to ask the seller about. And also the revenue here, look at that. 14,000 to, what's that?
5,000.
5. Yes. What happened?
So I would also be valuing this. I would say personally, I would use that as a negotiating tactic. I would say if it looked like one thing, if I could look at a multi-year period and see that every winter we had a seasonal drop in revenue, and then that would justify that $9,000 a month average. But if this is new and it looks like the new normal is $5,000 a month, that means that the multiple is much higher than 44 even, right? We're looking at like an 80x multiple or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that just becomes totally unreasonable to me as a buyer in this market.
That's right. Okay, let's see how they convince us to buy. Key highlights: award-winning cruise-oriented website, provided cruise news. Okay, we read that. As a cruise industry continue to rebound and dozens of new ships are in order. Okay, great. That's fluff. Earns revenue through Mediavine ad platform, which Mediavine is the largest media, not the largest, but kind of very common to use for websites which has above 100,000 page views, because then you have this threshold to go to that ad network. However, with this one dropping to 76,000, I'm not sure you can get that. So maybe you lose that when you're buying this asset.
Which makes a big difference as well, right? I mean, it's going to make a very big difference.
They're definitely one of the best in the market. So yeah, they became Raptive. They changed their name.
Yeah,
right?
I think they did become Raptive, which is more than just programmatic display ads now. For it's like they're dealing with creators as well, very specifically, I believe.
Okay.
What I'd say though is that in general, I do think that they are most content businesses, content sites, people leave money on the table, and I think that there's often a lot more opportunity in the affiliate space, and probably in terms of content to create. There's probably great listicle product review content about being in certain locations on cruises, right? Yep. You could fill with affiliate links.
They do some actually. They have Amazon. You? Yes. So let me. I had a look at the P&L. Let me jump to that for a sec. So you have the P&L.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You see Mediavine, but you also see Amazon Affiliates, which is Amazon Associates.
Yeah.
But they have only till September before there was a drop at the traffic there. That's a red flag, unfortunately.
A green flag is this detailed P&L, though. I do think it's, most people will not have a P&L that's this detailed.
Right.
I do think it's important. If you could scroll to the left, you'll see there's no there's almost no cost for writers. There is in November, there is in a couple months, but in the general scheme of stuff, there's going to be a lot more, you
just
know,
in September.
680 for the year. I would say this site's going to need a lot more content, and either the new buyer is going to have to create said content themselves or be hiring writers as well.
Going back to your affiliate idea there, so I would diversify from only Amazon. Is probably would go with a ticketing system that you send people to buy cruises. That goes without saying here. I don't know why they've never did it. That can be a wonderful growth here. I don't know enough about ticketing system and how much they pay, but I'm sure you can do something with that.
I would bet my bottom dollar to agree with you that there are travel affiliate programs that will pay very, very, very well in comparison to some of the stuff they're getting on programmatic display from Mediavine even. And if you have enough traffic, there's definitely one thing that we used to do. I had a site that our biggest revenue stream came from. We made media kits, like we actually, and then reached out to advertisers for direct sales, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not always the easiest thing, but again, sort of eking out more revenue and more profit often comes from doing not the easiest things. But if you put together a compelling story and a pitch to Princess Cruises, or I don't know, I'm not super into the cruise space, I don't know all of them, but I promise you they have media buying budgets, 100%. Right. And if you could get in there, I think it's not at all unreasonable to get someone to pay to get a brand to give you some free trips, and you could create a piece of content around it. And maybe they're paying, or maybe paying $20,000, $30,000 a year to sponsor across the top of the site, right? To be Disney Cruise Lines, right? Like things like that. And so there's definitely some big opportunity there. In
Mediavine, you also know how much each page is making for you, so you can say this page or this ad makes me $200 a month. Great, but you go to them and they will pay you $400 or $300.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can actually put a number on that, but Mediavine is the base or the ad networks to give value, and then you can go up from there. So definitely start with an ad network and then jump up as you suggested. And also one more nice thing, and let me jump to the bottom and we go through all that. But one of the assets here is a newsletter, or subscribers, sorry, 7,800 people. You mentioned all those promotions just now. That's a perfect match for these kind of things. I'm not sure. You need to ask the seller what they're giving, what they sent already, but probably it's something that you have to do.
I mean, when I look at these social media stats right here, combined with the traffic stats of the site, I'm quite sure that put together in the correct media kit and pitched to the right brand, you could be pulling an extra couple $1,000s a month. I'm just positive of it, right? Now, you might have... It might
James for that.
Yeah, it's definitely doable. I think there's a big opportunity also with Pinterest. I know there's a lot of content site operators who these days have now recognized that with a lot of the Google updates that happened last year, that there's big opportunities with other channels, with social, which is actually where we've done a lot of SEO for. I've been doing this on and off 15, 20 years, but some of the most traffic I've driven to sites in the past has actually been through organic social. I think there's a massive opportunity. When you're talking about vacations, there's a massive opportunity with Pinterest because it's all aesthetics, right? People are definitely fits into one of the niches where people are searching on Pinterest for this type of stuff. And so 5,400 followers is actually very little. I think that
an ugly page as far as,
and it hasn't been updated. I saw some posts that are like, I think 2 years old or something like that.
Look,
2 years, 2 years.
That's like all over the place.
2 years, 3 years. I'm quite sure that someone could take this and, there are people doing 100, 200, 300,000 page views a month just from Pinterest alone. Now, obviously, that's not something you just turn on with pinning and putting in some concerted effort, and absolutely there's enough margin on this to hire someone to help you to do that with, that might be overseas, for example, for a few $100 a month, just the pinning itself. I think that in a few months, you could be getting that traffic back to over 100,000 as an example.
Good point.
Pretty quickly. So,
hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying this video. Please like and subscribe, and let's move on to the rest of the listing review. Okay, let's go back to where we were at the listing. Over here, operations. Oh wait. Oh, we spoke about Mediavine. Okay, operations. There is time commitment involved, and there are several outsourcing ways to find qualified writers at the minimum cost. You mentioned the $680 a year, not enough for what you need. But with AI, I don't know, maybe if you bump it to 1,000, that will be enough. You can write a lot of articles these days.
Also, a lot of opportunity if you want to really do it. Like there's, I don't know if you know who the niche twins are, but on Twitter, but one of them is always writing about, has a blog about New England, and he actually goes on these trips and writes about New England, right? I think that like for the right person, this could become a great, you could be going on these cruises all the time.
You can hire the owner to do that.
There you go. You could hire the owner, 100%. You could, and you could, and if you wanted to take this on yourself, I mean, if it really is making $9,000-$10,000 a month, right? If that's really a place you want to be, there's absolutely a spot in which, especially if you can increase that, which I think is absolutely reasonable. There's absolutely you could be writing these articles yourself, right? Like one cruise trip, for example, might create 30 pieces, 40 pieces of content for you, right?
Definitely.
So definitely you could take it on.
So the website almost ran itself. I beg to differ here, but okay, that's marketing fluff. If you're a quick learner, you can rewrite the post and press release within an hour of receiving it. Okay, we may be invited to press sailing, press inaugural events, but we're expected to write about the experiences. This is around what you mentioned of getting all this content on the website. Financials. Cruise Maven has shown continued month-over-month revenue growth, not correct according to the numbers, as the pandemic wanes and people are booking cruises faster rate. Okay, operating costs. Under 1,000. I don't remember it from the P&L. You remember?
No, I think that was about right. And by the way, there aren't any obvious. Looking at the P&L, there was like a few things that you could maybe cut, but it didn't look bloated to me overall. It looked actually quite realistic.
That's right. Yeah, it does look very realistic. Yes, with the numbers. Definitely.
When a lot of people don't include that stuff, a lot of people don't talk about the cost of, SEMrush, for example, right? They don't talk about the cost of the keyword research tools, right? And by the way,
that's actually very honest to say, to mention
incredibly honest, because I might not include that because we have portfolios, right? We use Ahrefs instead of SEMrush, but so like I would not include the cost of Ahrefs for me in a P&L. Maybe pro rata I might, but we've got so many sites in there that like I'm going to keep paying for Ahrefs with or without the site, right? And so I think that that's incredibly honest of them to include that. So that's.
By the way, there is an Ahrefs competitor, which is much, much cheaper now. I saw it somewhere. I can find it later for the listeners and for you.
Please.
So I see people leaving Ahrefs for this reason. Okay. Depending on how many outside writers are hired, I've written almost every one of the 1,700 plus articles. That's impressive. She was a lot of trips. So I took a hit with Google 3 updates last fall. Okay, we saw that. But January shows steady growth with both page views and sessions. I say that a lot on my videos. Don't buy a website without getting access to their Google Analytics. And if some sellers would say, give me an offer and then I'll give you the credentials. It's like, no, just move on to the next deal. Don't do that.
Immediately. That's the biggest red flag for me.
Like,
I want access to all of it.
And Google Search Console for me.
And by the way, before I ever wired off $400,000, I would be more than looking at that P&L. I would also be inside their Mediavine account as added to it to confirm all of it, right? Like maybe not with admin access, but I'd want to sort of have view access of all these things.
For sure.
And I think, by the way, it is also very reasonable what you see post a massive. I mean, the last time I saw big Google updates like this were like Panda and Penguin years ago. That was the names of these updates, right? And so looking at HCU, which is the big one that rocked everyone this year, helpful content update, or in 2023, is we find a couple things pretty often, which is that some people get crushed and stay crushed. Some people get crushed and bounce back. And so I would love to not only have access to Google Analytics, but Search Console as well to see if it was getting most of their traffic from Google. She might be totally right. It might be coming back in January, but it might also give you an opportunity to negotiate down, because it has been the past couple months have been crushed so hard. So anyway, just interesting because I would love to see where it's at today versus last month, right? It might be totally recovering.
That's correct. That's correct. Something that's surprising for me also is that the traffic is down, although it's the vacation season. So
Sure.
it's definitely was hit, like as she said, because it was not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
It might have been even lower if that was a different month. Okay, session RPMs, revenue per mil, per 1,000 is 70 to 100. So on the numbers over here, the screenshots, it's $76 for 1,000 visitors, which is very, very high. Nice number
For
there.
display is very high.
Yes,
It's very
I
high.
get like, I used to get 50, now I get around 30, but some people say they get 2 or 10.
Yeah.
10 is kind of the number that people use, but so 76, like absolutely amazing. There's also a podcast, which there is no link here, so I don't know which one that is, and a YouTube channel that is included in the sale. Okay, revenue and expenses. Okay, we've seen this graph down.
Scary graph.
Yes, and it goes only till December. If traffic, let's see the traffic, it's down here. If traffic is back up in January, she should have put this number there. I don't know why it's not here.
Well,
maybe,
I don't think it will load in until the end of the month.
Right.
It's always a trailing because it's at the month close.
Get the Google Analytics access.
For sure.
Bottom line.
For sure.
Bottom line. Okay. So we saw this.
Interestingly enough, I think a bit of my takeaway on this one is a little overpriced. Sad that she got hit, mostly because I think it's particularly sad when people's sites get destroyed, when they're clearly just good bloggers who are writing about something they love. It's a little different when you're like churning and burning. I know people with giant content farms, you know what I mean? That's sort of the game they're playing. But when someone has clearly been for 17 years writing and doing something they love, and then right as the moment she wants to exit this business, right? Because I think it was, like
I want to know why.
I'd want to know why. But like, is it? It just sort of. It's almost unfair. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's almost unfair to her, right? Because I just think that like she's gonna get a couple $100,000 less than maybe she should have. But with that said, it's more fair to the buyer. Thank God someone didn't buy it, and then a month later, it got hit. I do think what's important to remember about when sites get hit like that, and I always tell people this, is Google is zero sum. Unlike many things in life, Google is zero sum. Rankings are zero sum. So for her to lose those rankings, someone had to gain those rankings, right? And the only reason I said it is a reminder to people, because all you hear when people hear about sites getting algorithm changes in Google, it's always the horror side of the stories, right? It's always like, oh my God, I lost a bunch of traffic. Somebody else gained said traffic though, right? And it is important to remember that, right? Like Google algorithm updates can also be a big boost to your site. It's just much less likely that people are coming and running around being like, hey, I gained 20% traffic this month, than people are saying, oh, I lost 20% of my traffic this month, right? So I think it's just important to remember that it's not as if search ranking inside organic search is done. It is that algorithms change, right? That's
and she might be able to gain it back, and maybe January is as good as last January.
Yeah, who knows?
Check. Okay, let's look at the engagement. So I see this number, which doesn't make sense a lot in Flippa, 3 hours, 46 minutes and 39 seconds. It's just a number. It's not correct. That's an error there. Engagement rate also doesn't make sense. She probably has 2 Google Analytics codes there that mess things up, which might also mess things up here. No. I don't know. You know what? Maybe it counts every page twice. That's something to check, the page views.
Sure.
Pages per session makes sense. Great. I would improve the navigation maybe with this number a bit to find how to improve that. Organic traffic, 80%. Direct. Direct basically means people putting the URL into the browser. And so that's, the higher that number is, the better branding the website has, because people just type it in. So that's a good thing. And 12% is quite high, I think.
Very high.
Organic social, 4.4%. Unassigned, who knows? Referral, need to check on Google Analytics. All countries here are, well, except of, I'd say Mexico, are developed countries. So this is one of the reasons for the high RPMs. because advertisers pay more for visitors from these countries.
Yep.
So
the US is definitely the highest. I mean, I think we used to, I don't know if it's something that people say anymore, but 15 years ago, we'd call these like geos, right? These would be like, you know,
say again?
Tier 1 geos. They're,
Tier
you know,
one
they're
geos.
that are tier 1 countries. And it wasn't, it was more just a statement of what advertisers would pay for, you know, for traffic from said countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely all of them tier 1. Okay, let's see if we missed anything. These are the assets. Domains, unique content, unique design, email subscriber list. That's great. She doesn't mention here officially at least, the YouTube channel, but she mentioned before in the podcast, which is kind of random.
In the social media, it's down there for it says it says 945 subscribers on the YouTube channel.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the P&L we looked at. These are screenshots from how she made money, so from Mediavine and others. Let's see if there are comments, because that tells us how long this listing is here. January, December. Not too long.
No, yeah, I thought longer. I thought I'd seen it maybe at another point. Maybe it's back on the...
Yes.
On it, yeah.
Maybe it was under offer, then they lost it, then they brought it.
I don't like, candidly, obviously she's going through an offer right now. I don't like that. A red flag to me here would be this question on January 9th that has no answer, or this question on December 22nd that's got no answer as well.
Right. You should be very attentive if you're selling your listing.
For $500,000, for sure. You know, like $500, maybe a different story. For $500,000, you should be responding immediately, you know? By the way, I don't think, my gut check is that this is a good website by a legitimate blogger, genuinely. I just don't like, it worries me when you see things about post-purchase support, for example, that someone isn't actually even replying to the comments here, right? Like, it's not that she's, I don't think, ill-intentioned. It's just that, like, if you're not replying to my questions on your listing, maybe it's unlikely that you're going to be great about replying to my questions in the post-purchase support that she says she provides.
Okay, my fancy mic died. I'm moving to this one.
Sorry. Moving on. It's all right.
Sorry, guys. I'm downgrading here. Downgraded you. Do you want to go quickly through Ahrefs, what I found?
Yeah, go for it. Open it up.
Okay. There it is, Cruise Maven. So medium DR, that's the strength of the website. It's kind of some people say it's a phantom number that, you know, but it gives us some insight of how strong the website is. Lots of keywords. Let's look at the keywords. I like those graphs of the keywords. Again, keywords, look at this. So look at this bump here, and then going down. Come on, load the number. That doesn't load. Okay.
It's interesting that it had an initial bump with the update. You see that? Like it had a...
Yes, that's very interesting.
Or it had a June, there was a big update. All those little G's.
June, see? Yeah.
Yeah, there was a big update in June. Interesting that it had a big pop there. This is why I'm sort of confident that Google, it just has a Frankenstein of an algorithm that like sort of is out of control for them a little bit, you know? Because it doesn't, you know, you just have thousands of engineers that have thoughts and have made hundreds of updates over decades. You know what I mean? Like, it's very tough to sort of have something that are ranking tens of billions of pages, right? Yeah. It's very hard to sort of make sure that it always works correctly for them, I'm sure.
Let's look at competition. If you're looking at a competition here, so this is the listing here. This website is actually tiny. Compare this one. Cruise Critic.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know any of them. Maybe a Carnival, but that's the cruise ship website probably. And it's not a blog about this. But Cruise Critic sounds like that, and it's massive versus Cruise Maven, which is here. Not this one, one of those. See, this one, the blue one. And we have Cruise, what's that? Cruise Radio, okay? And Cruise Blog. And ncl.com, whatever that is, but good domain.
Yeah, but no clue. Maybe something cruise lines or something, I don't know.
Yeah, so it could be that all the traffic moved to this one.
Yeah, why don't you click on Cruise Critic? Are they doing particularly well right now? I mean, I wonder if they got hit by the update.
Oh, wait.
Let's see what they look like.
Oh, wait.
So Cruise Critic is owned by TripAdvisor, first of all, which I think is interesting, right?
Okay, they just sent on the link, all the links from TripAdvisor to Cruise Critic, and that's the reason. Okay, so it's not fair to compare that because that's a huge company versus a blog. So that's this one and this one is not comparable, and probably also this one because this is probably another company because of NCL. No blog would buy that, and it's probably super expensive. Just this 3-letter domain. So on that side of the graph, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's okay. Okay, final words. What do you think?
My thoughts are, it's a good site. I think that for the right price, I would buy it. You know, I think that, or not me, because I don't take cruises, but I think for the right price to the right buyer, it's still a buy for sure. I would say that I would bring in the valuation much lower, like
how much?
50% of where it's at, maybe. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if it's really going to be doing 5,000 a month at a 30 to 35x, I mean, we're talking about 150 to 175 grand, and it's for sale for 425. I mean, I generally would come in at that sort of structure. Now, by the way, doesn't mean that I couldn't align her correctly, the seller, and say something like, listen, you think it's worth 400 grand. You look what happened to it. I think it's worth 150 grand. Let's come in and I give you, let's put a value on it of 200,000. Stick around for the next 6 months. Help me try and clean it up. We can split upside that will seller finance another 50 grand out of it for you if we hit certain KPIs because of the growth we put back into it, right? And I think that, but candidly, or I would leave Flippa and I would go package this up and I would go try and sell it to TripAdvisor. I would go do my damnedest to go try and sell it to a strategic acquirer that is not valuing this business at all on a profit multiple, because I promise you TripAdvisor does not care about the $5,000 to $10,000 a month this business makes at all.
They want the traffic.
They want the traffic. It's a blip for them, right? And so I've had some exits that were outsized in terms of what they should have been, not because we didn't do it. We sold to a strategic buyer, as opposed to someone who cared about the revenue multiple. So I would I would think it's a good listing. I think it's a great site. I think it was unfair what happened to her. I would come in probably about 50% and maybe leave her with a tiny slice of equity and maybe a bit of upside to help close that valuation gap. Otherwise, you come back in 3 or 4 months. I can promise you in 3 or 4 months, when the trailing 6 months has been at $5,000 a month, should be much more interested in that valuation you'd come at for. So that's my thought. What are your thoughts?
I tend to think the same as you. Maybe not 50%. That's kind of too much. I would say around 65% of the valuation here. And it's a good site. It seems genuine. But Google Analytics, all that, thorough check there, really. And yeah, that's basically it. It's a good website. Bottom line.
Agreed.
Bottom line.
Agreed. And with some opportunity, I do think that with the right some of the right person taking care of it, I do think it could be brought back to where it was.
I think the affiliate one is the best growth engine there. Just putting ticketing systems can be crazy.
Yeah, 100%.
With 80,000 people can use on the website.
Agreed.
Okay, James. Thank you so much. That was fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Of course.
Cool. Great. Have a good one. Thank you.
Cheers, you guys.